CTE Pro 1 Truth Series, Video 6, the finer points of stepping the cue ball. Please pay attention very carefully to the physical versus the visual when it comes to the act of stepping. We're going to revisit the round barn, and initially I'm just going to establish a center, and I can change centers just as Hal did out in the field by taking a step to my left. I obviously have a new center. Now I can step back to my original center, and then I can take a step to my right for establishing a new center. So, changing the center for this huge round structure that we're imagining, that Hal came up on out in the field when he did his target shooting, the center was changed by taking a step. Hal took 28 steps. He told me that story a few times. He wanted something to sink in. I didn't know quite what it was for years, but I stuck with it and I figured it out. You know, Hal holds a genius at imparting just the right clue, leaving just the right clues behind so that his work could be unraveled, but not without work. It's taken a lot of work. Okay. I'm going to move this platter roughly into the place of where the round structure was so that you can have a better view of what it is that I'm actually doing. I'm going to amplify the center here in a couple of ways. I'm going to use a red disc, and then I'm going to top it off with a little white bead. Now, I want us to have something to sight to, which is when you're working with a cue ball and an object ball, you have a sight line. So I want to have a defined sight line here. So I'm going to place this red disc on the rail and amplify its center with a bead as well. Now, I'm doing this conventionally with my nose behind center, and that's the way you should do this as well, should you decide to duplicate this, and I encourage you to do so. So, to the best of my ability, I'm going to line up directly behind the white bead in relation to the red disc and white bead on the rail. Now, I'm going to change the center, but I'm not going to do it by taking a physical step to my right or to the left. I'm going to do it with my vision. I'm going to do it with my focus. It's fair game to move my eyeballs. My eyeballs are not going to stay still, but what's important to know is your head can't move. Your head must be stationary. This is a visual task. So, I'm going to step, we're going to call it the cue ball now, or this platter. I'm going to do a visual act of stepping for changing the center. So I have my sight line established, center bead to center bead. Now I'm going to focus without moving my head, without moving my body in any way, on the right side of this platter. Now, when I do that, I can see to about the left edge of the red disc. When I shift my focus back to the sight line, and then to the left edge of the disc, or the cue ball if you want to imagine it as being a cue ball, I can easily see the bead on the platter as being in line with about the right edge of the red checker. So to further show that, I'm going to have to build a little platform here. Thank goodness I still have steady hands for the most part. So you see, I did this changing of centers without taking a physical step. I did it with my eyes. I did it with my vision. Okay, I'm back to center. Center bead to center bead on the red disc. I look at the right edge of the disc, and now my center is from right to left. So I shifted the center this much. Back to the original sight line. Now I focus on the left edge of the disc. I pick up the bead. Now I've changed the center from left to right. So if this were a cue ball and an object ball, these are my shot lines. There's no guesswork to it. In each case, if it were a cue ball, I'm stepping the cue ball based on the outermost edge that I can see for the right side, which gives me a line. Mine ticks away this way as my shot line. And the reverse is so here. If I'm stepping the cue ball over here, it's based on the outermost left edge, and then 90 ticks away, I have my shot line here. So this is my sight line. This is my stepped center, and this is my stepped center. This is actually the stepped center. In my book, and later on in the Truth series, you'll see that this line right here is called the missile. It's a no imagination shot line. No imagination shot line. This could be, let's say this is the outside pivot. Let's say that this is an inside pivot. So let's remove the platter and refine this just a little bit more. Let's just place a cue ball right here. This cue ball has a red circle at the top, but I'm going to embellish the apex of the cue ball by placing a bead on the ball. So now as I get behind the cue ball, center bead to center bead on the red disc, then I step the cue ball. I have my no imagination line here that is based on stepping the cue ball with the outermost right edge, back to center, focus on the left edge of the cue ball, and now I have a new center here, which could be my missile, which could be my shot line. So if I were doing throw one, there's my sight line, and then I just sweep right to my missile. That would be a right sweep. See that right sweep? Now if I'm going to go to the other one, then this is going to be a left sweep. I'll do that again. Right sweep. Left sweep. In Pro 1, I started off with parallax. And notice that my head angles back to conventional all the way down. So I start off at parallax, and then as I go down, my head and angle's too conventional. That's the major beauty behind Pro 1. It's sort of a hybrid system in that you start off with parallax vision. Now initially when I was doing this, I was doing nose behind center. But when I started looking at the shots, I went to parallax. But the beauty behind Pro 1 is you can continue to use your personal vision center for aligning in full stance. But there is so much more available to you in the world of center to edge aiming. You can take parallax vision into full stance. And that's where it really gets different and odd. Learning to use your vision in parallax when you're down on the ball. But when you're at the closest source to the shot, it's just crazy awesome. That's one way to explain it. It's just crazy awesome to be able to do in full stance what you can do here. So, okay, one more section to this. Let's just set this up as a 15 outside. We've been talking about a 15 outside, so that's a 15 outside shot. So here's the sight line. Center cue ball to one tick past that quarter line there, SP15. So from the round barn, the clue that Hal left us with for the round barn had to be extrapolated down to this. It wasn't an overnight study. So now I'm looking at the sight line. This is an outside 15, so I'm going to focus on the right half of the cue ball. So I have this sight line right here, so when I step the cue ball, there's my shot line. There's no guesswork to it. I can only, once I step the cue ball, that's my overcut shot line to just past center pocket. So when I sweep to that, I'm not guessing, I'm sweeping to what I saw as the missile, the step center line. I'm sweeping to that. So my alignment is, in the book, and I'll talk about this in the video, you peek around the right edge of the cue ball. In other words, you want to see its outermost edge so that you can base the center on the outermost edge, which the center would be 90 ticks away. So that's how the center can be defined objectively. So the building blocks of CTE Pro 1 are numerous. Putting them together is work. It requires study, a lot of time at the table, but it's well worth it. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. There's no way. It's been a complete joy to connect with this phenomenon. And you can do it too now because you have the right information. You have it all put together. Right here in this one source, in the Truth Series. If you like the Truth Series, you're going to love my book. And if you want to see the Truth Series continue, support me with purchasing my book. But it's like I've always said, this Truth Series is for you to become informed about what Center to Edge is all about. So you don't have to spend the money on the book first. You can come here first. If you like this, then I'm banking on the fact that you'll like my book. I will see you in Truth Series video 7. We're going to take a look at the finer points of gearing. Thank you.